What's wild is people don't realize the cost of rehabilitating a raptor. On the smallest of birds, you're looking at easily $500 for that rehabilitation journey. If you're talking about an eagle, that's going to be $20,000, $30,000. So per individual.
Welcome, friends, entrepreneurs, and visionaries to Getting Neighborly, Fairview, Texas's very own gateway to opportunity. Proudly presented by the Fairview Economic Development Corporation. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, here to navigate the journey through the heart of our thriving community. In each episode, we unlock the doors of Fairview, offering you a first-hand look at the vibrant life and booming business landscape that define our community. We're not just neighbors here, we're collaborators, innovators, and friends, building dreams and turning visions into reality. From insightful stories of local success to exploring the advantages that make Fairview an ideal community for your business. This podcast is your inside track to discovering why Fairview isn't just a place to do business. It's a place to grow, to belong, and to call home. So whether you're looking to start up, scale up, or simply soak up the spirit of community that champions entrepreneurial success, you found the right spot. Welcome to Getting Neighborly in Fairview, Texas. Let's make your business dream a community success story.
Howdy, friends, and welcome to another episode of Getting Neighborly, the show where we celebrate the people, places, and the purpose-driven organizations that make Fairview feel like home. I'm your host, Super Dave Quinn, and today on Getting Neighborly, we have our friend Laura Johnson. She's the executive director of the Blackland Prairie Raptor Center, located in our neighboring community of Lucas, Texas. Now, here in Fairview, one of our community themes is neighborly by nature. And when people hear that phrase, they often think about neighbors helping neighbors. But there's another side to that story. Being neighborly also means being good stewards of the land, the wildlife, and the natural spaces that make this community such a special place to live. So Laura leads an organization dedicated to rehabilitating injured birds of prey, educating the public about wildlife conservation, and protecting one of the most endangered ecosystems here in North America, the Blackland Prairie. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Super Dave. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad you took some time out to join us. Let's start. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? What sparked your interest in wildlife conservation? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I'm actually a native to Dallas. I grew up in Dallas proper, and I started working with animals right during kind of the college years. I always loved working around animals, and I really had an opportunity to start pursuing that as a career, working in a zoological facility. And so during college, I started working in an education capacity, meaning I used to do things like summer camps and preschool classes and all those fun things that involve people and animals. And then I transitioned to an ambassador team where we would take animals off property, off zoo grounds to schools, libraries, doing very similar things that our ambassador team at the Raptor Center does today. And so I took a little bit of a break from the animal world after being there for about 7 years. I went to corporate America and I learned a lot. I enjoyed my time working for a large insurer company. And in that insurance company, I gained a completely different skill set. And so being able to apply not only my love and passion of animals, but in a professional setting is really kind of the two skill sets that I use on a daily basis now in my current role at the Blackland Prairie Raptor Center. I kind of found my way back to working with animals in 2020, and I was just looking for a place to volunteer. And at the same time, Blackland Prairie Raptor Center was working on transitioning their training methodology with their ambassador raptors. And so at the time I was looking to volunteer, and that was kind of my specialty. So it worked out perfectly. I volunteered for about 3 years before coming on board as a staff member, and I stepped into the executive director role in October 2023. So I'll be coming up on my 3-year anniversary in just a few months as the executive director.
Wow, that's quite the interesting path to where you are today. How has your background in behavioral analysis and business, how has that transitioned into running the Raptor Center? Have you been able to make that connection?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a little bit of a unique pathway, especially from an education standpoint. So my undergraduate degree is in applied behavior analysis from the University of North Texas. It's one of the few undergrad programs in the nation. At the time of the program, I think it was the only one. There might be more now, but My focus in ABA was with applied animal behavior specifically. And so
Okay.
the degree, even though it was just truly the science of behavior analysis, there were opportunities to really specialize based on different labs that were available. And so I worked within an organization that was called ORCA, which stood for Organization for Reinforcement Contingencies with Animals. And we did animal training with everything from shelter animals to working with other nonprofits in the area with training their animals that they had. It was a really wonderful foundational skill set. It's funny because a lot of people that want to work with animals in a zoological setting think they have to go to school and study wildlife biology or conservation. But I was probably the only person that actually used their degree on a daily basis when it came to training our animals. And so if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have changed a thing. I learned a lot in my college years that I was able to apply and still apply to this day. You know, it's an ever changing science. And so things are developing constantly. And then during my time working in corporate America, I received my master's in business administration that was focused in management. And so looking at obviously how to run a company, everything from accounting to operations, but specifically the people side of that was what I found so interesting. So being able to look at the behavior analysis side and apply it with humans when I had been used to applying it with animals primarily before then was really fascinating. But adding in that business mindset as well was really kind of a pivotal piece for me. And now I'm currently pursuing a PhD in behavior analysis. I'm going back to my behavior analysis roots to pursue a more specialized organizational behavior management role. So looking at not only running a business and looking at the financials, but doing everything from culture change to analyzing structures, making sure that they're more efficient, making sure we're reinforcing our team members. At the Blackland Prairie Raptor Center specifically, our organization has 4 employees and we have over 200 volunteers that come out on a weekly basis. And so making sure we're creating an environment that they find beneficial and that they find some sort of reinforcement, whether that's just taking the time to be there, being able to work with the team, being able to see and help the birds, looking at all those variables to create an experience that is so incredibly helpful for the birds that are in our care, but also supportive environment for our team.
So so much going on in my head. One, I've got all these questions. I got to stay on track. One, behavioral analysis, is that adjacent to like behavioral change? My wife works in behavioral change. She works for the company that does that. Is that sort of the same science, except you applied it to animals and now you're applying it to people? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, you are correct. So behavior analysis is the science of behavior change. So that
Okay.
means you're looking at different variables, whether that be reinforcement, which means that behavior is more likely to occur when applied, or punishment, meaning that a behavior is less likely to occur when applied. That's the very basic
Okay.
fundamentals of it.
So carrot and stick, right? That's in my mind like it's those
Yes.
like very
Yes.
basic, right? I'm a very basic.
In fact, when I worked in corporate America and I worked for an insurance company, that was a lot of how I would phrase it. You know, we were talking about modifying health plans and how do we want to reinforce people for making the best decision for their health care.
Yeah.
Because, you know, at the end of the day, if they're taking good care of themselves as an insurance company, that is a win-win for everybody. That's best
Yeah.
case scenario. We love healthy people in the insurance world. So that's exactly what I did, you know, and that's that setting. I was working with groups that were several hundred to thousands, multi-thousands of people within their organization.
Okay. Awesome. Now, and you also mentioned that you have hundreds of volunteers that come out on the weekend. Now, I mean, for those that don't know, Fairview and Lucas, pretty small places, right? Small towns. Even though we're sitting in Collin County, this massive urban, sort of environment. One, I'm sure people don't even know that the conservation place maybe even exists, but 200 volunteers, are they coming just from our communities, or are they coming from around the Metroplex? Like, where are you drawing people in from?
Our volunteers come from everywhere. I would say we have several that drive an hour, maybe even a little bit over an hour to come on a weekly basis. For all of our animal care volunteers, we require a minimum commitment of 4 hours once a week. But we do have other opportunities that we have volunteers coming from even further away for transport, for instance. In fact, I just had a conversation this morning with one of our volunteers who lives in Tyler, and he comes in once a week, and he usually comes for the afternoon of one day and stays for the full next day and stays with family members for that evening. And today he and I were strategizing on ways to further impact our East Texas community because we are getting more and more calls. There was one licensed rehabber in the area for raptors, and she just recently retired. And so that has been a significant gap that we're trying to figure out how can we fill as an organization, but also not put additional strain on our current resources. And so, that's easily over 100 miles, about 2 hours away.
Yeah, for those that don't know, if you're hearing this, you're not from Texas. That's not like next door. That's an hour and a half. If there's no traffic and nobody's on the highway, right? It could be 2 hours the way things are going.
Yes.
All right.
So we have a pretty big presence throughout the community.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, let's kind of pivot a little bit and talk about what is the Blackland Prairie. I'm not sure people who are hearing this may not have even heard that term, or maybe they've heard it in passing, but what does that mean? What when you talk about Blackland Prairie, what are we trying to save?
Yeah, Blackland Prairie is the most endangered ecosystem in North America. A lot of people don't realize that's in our very own backyards. Today, stats are looking at less than 0.5% is still in existence that's truly untouched Blackland Prairie. At one point, 150, 200 years ago, the Blackland Prairie started all the way down as far south as San Antonio and went almost all the way to the Red River. And today, like I said, less than 1% of that is still in existence. As people moved in, as rangers moved in, farmers, obviously that significantly changed the ecosystem, the habitat, and removed a lot of the native plants that were so critical to this area. It's a really important ecosystem in the sense that here in Texas, our weather is crazy. It can go from really cold to really hot, abnormal temperatures, tons of rain, no drought, complete drought with no rain. So it's all over the place. And having, especially the roots of the grasses and those native plants, they would help naturally a lot of the erosion, the problems that we're seeing today. If you look at any of the lakes in North Texas, as a lot of people know, we don't have very many natural lakes. There's only one in Texas. So a lot of them are man-made. And because of them being man-made and not having the natural infrastructure in place to be able to protect those, we're seeing tremendous erosion problems all over. And even think about our soils and when we have foundation issues in our homes, North Texas is known for that. But a lot of that comes down to just very unstable land.
Okay. And so when you're talking to the residents or someone about the importance of the conservation of what you're doing, how do you explain that to them? What happens if you don't have it? If this goes away, what are we facing?
That is a great question, especially right now, because so many people are coming to this area, settling in this area. The footprint of DFW has expanded tremendously. And so we are at constant risk for losing more and more of this habitat. And so, we talk about simple things that people can do, little small changes in their everyday lives that can have really positive impacts. Can be something as simple as planting a prairie, a pocket prairie is what we call them, a little pocket prairie in your front yard or backyard that has native plants. It's a win-win. They're beautiful. They don't require a lot of additional watering because they're native. So they're used to having a ton of water and having no water for months. So it's great. Those are some small changes people can make. Just being really mindful about even volunteer opportunities for different organizations. We're not the only conservation organization here in this area, but there are a lot of really wonderful opportunities for people to volunteer too.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the other part of your organization, which is the Raptors. I think it kind of sounds more exciting, right? Like, I don't know, in your mind, it conjures up in my mind like this exciting, I don't know what it is, but like it sounds exciting.
What tell the conservation people you said that, right?
No. What qualifies as a raptor? What is that?
What is a raptor? So raptor is an animal that's an obligate carnivore, meaning they only eat meat, and they have specialized adaptations for hunting. So primarily we look at their beak. They have that curved beak, and they have talons, meaning those sharp claws to help them capture their food. Vultures are a little bit of an exception. Their talons are not, especially New World vultures that we have here in the Western Hemisphere, their feet are not designed the same way. Their feet are very flat because obviously they don't need to worry about capturing prey that's running away. Their food's dead.
Right. Their prey is dead, right? They're flat-footed. I'm just going to
That's
stand
right.
around and eat.
Exactly. So that's really, those are the primary adaptations that are unique to raptors. Here in North Texas, we've got eagles, hawks, owls, falcons, vultures, and then we also have the seasonal Mississippi kite that comes through. They have their babies here. Everyone loves to see the Mississippi kites come back, and then they take off to Argentina for the winter.
That's amazing. So are y'all breed them? Like, I'm trying to understand how you help with conserving them. I mean, I know in our neighborhood, right, everybody talks about don't let your little dog go out at certain, or your cats or whatever, because we have birds of prey that that would take them off if they're not. So, what do you guys work with, or how do you work with the conservation on that side?
So for our raptor rehab program, we take in anywhere from 600 to 800 birds a year that have been injured or orphaned out in the wild. Right
Oh
now,
wow!
we are on patient number 370 as of today for this year. We are on track to have our biggest year yet. And so we're thinking we definitely exceed that 800 number. We typically will bring in a bird, we'll have them triage. We have a veterinarian that's on staff. She's there Monday through Friday. And so just like if you were to be injured and had to go to the emergency room, it's a similar process for these birds. They'll come in and we'll do blood work on them, we'll do x-rays on them, we'll triage them, treat them, come up with a treatment plan of what sort of medications they'll need, frequency of food, what type of food, and then they'll go through that rehab process. So they'll start in our ICU units. We have for critical care patients, we have our small bird ICU, which are American kestrels and eastern screech owls, which are the smaller species. And then we have our large bird ICU, and those are going to be those larger hawk species, owls, some of those eagles, vultures, they'll all be in the larger space. And then once they've progressed, they've graduated to our outside enclosures, those individuals are in the final stage of their rehab process. So at that point, we are flight conditioning them, giving them physical therapy, making sure that their flight looks good, they can hunt properly. If they have an injury that might have impacted their hunting capabilities, something like an eye injury or a foot injury, then we will go ahead and do a live prey test, meaning that we will put live prey in with them and make sure that they can effectively hunt. And then once they've passed all of those things, then we can release them back out into the wild. And that entire process can take anywhere from a few weeks, a couple of months, to over a year, depending on the individual.
So, I mean, truly, I had no idea. Right, that is amazing. How do people like? Is this something where they're injured in somebody's backyard, or somebody sees them on the side of the road and they scoop them up and take them? I mean, how do you even get animals that are injured? There's like no ambulance. What's the ambulance situation like?
All the above. So our number one reason a bird comes into us is some sort of trauma, meaning they've flown and hit a window, or they've been hit by a car, and someone finds them. And then they'll bring them into us. Ideally, we always ask for folks to come bring them to us just because our team is spread so thin. But if we have a case that the finder cannot bring in the patient, then we have a transport team that we ask, based on people's availability, if they're able to go help transport the bird. In fact, literally right before I got on this call, I was just coordinated a transport for a patient that was coming from Frisco. So we accept birds from all over. I think our furthest, we did have one coming from College Station earlier this year. That's probably, I think, the furthest we've had. But as our presence grows, people know that that's our specialty. We only take in raptors. There are other centers that can take in raptors, but a lot of times they get referred to us just because that's our specialty. And so we do the same for others. If people call us about robins or mockingbirds, then we provide names and contact information for other organizations that can help folks. But it's wild. Every time I say the number 600 to 800 birds, people just, their eyes get so big. They can't even fathom that there's even that many birds, let alone injured birds in this area coming in contact with people for one reason or another.
Yeah, I'm just blown away by that. It's like 2 a day. at the bare minimum, right? Like sometimes 3, right? Like that's
This
a
time of year, we're getting 20, sometimes 20 birds a day. Right now, we have 100, almost 180 birds in our facility. We were at like 178 this morning that are in our hospital right now. So either in our outside enclosures or inside our critical units. So it is wild. And during the winter, typically that number will sit around 20 to 30 patients. This year, though, we had around 40 to 50 the entire winter. And then in the summertime, our numbers will hover closer to 150 to 180 that we have on site at any given time.
what role, like a raptor, why do we care, right? Again, it's all back to what's the role they play. And I understand they're all, everything's connected. Help people understand why it's so important to keep these birds healthy and keeping that ecosystem, strong and thriving.
Raptors play a really pivotal role in our ecosystem. They're considered a cornerstone species, meaning that their presence impacts all other animals in a couple of different ways. The biggest is that they're an apex predator, and so they help keep in check the smaller species that reproduce at such a rapid rate. So think about rats, mice, rabbits, insects, even like a little tiny eastern screech owl. They love cockroaches, and people hate cockroaches, right? So it's a really great natural sense of pest control. And you think about the more raptors we have in our neighborhoods, the less we have to worry about doing things like rodenticide, which can be such a deadly, rodenticides, it's really difficult for us to be able to bring a bird back that has been impacted by rodenticide and save them. So I would say that is a big key part of their existence, is to help make sure that all the other species are kept in line with what we should be having for numbers for those individuals.
Now, obviously we talked about the growth of Collin County, our right, we're the heart of it, and again, Fairview and Lucas are sort of strange neighborhoods in that they have large lots and kind of a country setting. Are there things that people can do to help with the habitat or create a place for them, in a safe way or in a healthy way?
Absolutely. Having things like a screech owl box, for instance, that is a great opportunity for people to be able to put up a screech owl box in their backyard. The little babies, it's really neat to be able to see them watch and grow up and develop. And it's a great way to help reduce those pests in your backyard. So that's an easy way to create a habitat close by. In fact, they thrive. Eastern screech owls are a great example of urban wildlife, meaning they really thrive being in neighborhoods and around densely populated areas. We have some other species like great horned owls, for example. They're typically not in really densely populated neighborhoods. They're going to be further out, but they're going to be kind of in some of those denser areas, more forested areas. Whenever we release a great horn, we have to take that into account. And same thing with the screech owl. Every individual, we look at what's a great habitat for the species. And so we want to set them up for success and make sure that we're releasing them in a space that they're going to thrive.
Like, I gotta ask this question, like, I set it up. Do they just find it, or do you put out a vacancy sign, or what? How do I get a screech owl to hang out at my place if I put one up?
So best time to do it is November, because if you do it off that cycle, a lot of times a squirrel will find that as a nice cozy home. So, that's only the worst case scenario. So, even that's not so bad. But that's the best thing, is if you put up a nice little home for them, putting them about 8 feet off the ground on like a tree or a fence line, something that they can get to and predators aren't going to be able to get to. That's really how to set them up for success.
Okay, awesome. So we've talked about, what happens when someone finds an injured bird. Literally, do they just pick up the phone? I guess you have like a hotline or a call and they say, hey, I've got one on the way. And do you help them understand like how to package them or pick them up? I can imagine that'd be sort of dangerous, right? We're talking about some of the birds of prey. I don't know how I want to handle that.
Yes, we do help walk them through the process. And so usually I recommend putting them in something like a cardboard box. That way the animal won't be able to do too much damage if they move around in it. So that's really a best case scenario. Pet carrier also works too. And just having a towel at the bottom, we walk them through. If we have heavy gloves, depending on the species, also obviously can impact that a little bit as well. But having heavier gloves, using a towel, being able to capture the bird in a safe manner, making sure their wings are pinned to their side so that they're not flapping their wings, potentially harming their wings while they're doing that. And then if it's overnight, that's something, we coach through as well, because these animals can do okay in a really dark room without food or water. That's the biggest piece of advice we tell people. Please do not feed them. Birds, their metabolism is different. And even chicken at the store, we had a bird come in the other day that had been fed chicken. It didn't have the nutrients it needed to be able to fully form their bones. So that's something that, I always tell people, please refrain from feeding them. They don't drink water like mammals do, at such a frequency. So we walk them through that process. And then our team this time of year is usually at the center 7 a.m. until sometimes 10 o'clock at night, depending on the day
wow.
and what we have going on. So I would say best case scenario, we're there till probably about 6. But there are nights when our team's there till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, working on patients and making sure they're getting the care that they need.
So, I mean, it sounds like you have a staff. It seems as if you work in this space, and the people that work at your, like, they love this. There's a passion there, right, for animals and for this.
Absolutely. Yeah. None of us would do it, whether you're staff or volunteer, if it wasn't a passion. It's not very glamorous. A lot of people think when you're standing there with a giant owl, how cool that is. It is cool, but it's also a lot of really hard work. And feeding these animals, they're not eating a grilled cheese. We're cutting up mice, we're cutting up rabbits, we're giving them the nutrients they need, but it's not exactly what I would say is glamorous. Especially in the summer months, it's hot. Our team, they work so hard during baby season. Right now, they have to dress in camo, meaning that from literally head to their shoes is covered in camo, so that way the birds aren't associating people with food delivery. Because when that happens, that animal is then what we call imprinted, meaning they can't go back to the wild. They don't have the capabilities or the development or understanding of what a predator is, where to get their food, how to act like a bird, and that can be detrimental. That's one thing we can't fix. We can sometimes, fix a broken wing or fix a talon or fix something that may be broken, but we cannot fix once a bird has been fully imprinted. There is, at that point, we have to find a home for that animal forever, and they'll have to live under human care for the rest of their life.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's kind of talk about, bring it kind of back to Fairview. Obviously, you're not in Fairview, but you're our neighbor. And again, we love our neighbors. And so when you're talking about the growth and things that we're having, what is something that a community can do from like a city level or from a large level? What can they do to protect the wildlife around them? Like, how do you balance the being in with them, but not, being afraid to be around them?
Yeah, I think making sure that you have an idea of what to do if you find an injured animal, and that's true for any species. There's a really wonderful service called DFW Wildlife Hotline, and they will help triage. And so if it is a baby rabbit and you call them, they can get you on contact with an organization that can help you. If it's a raptor, they'll contact us. It's a really wonderful service. So I think that's step number one. If you find a wild animal that is injured or hurt, it takes time, but it is so worthwhile. It's a great investment in our wildlife and our ecosystem in order to try to save that animal and make sure it gets the care they need. A couple of other things they can do is they can support conservation efforts, meaning things like whether it's volunteering or attending events. We do a lot of public events where we welcome people to our property. We talk about conservation. We talk about the prairie. We talk about raptors. We'll have our ambassadors out. Supporting events like that helps move that mission forward. What's wild is people don't realize the cost of rehabilitating a raptor. On the smallest of birds, you're looking at easily $500 for that rehabilitation journey. If you're talking about an eagle, that's going to be $20,000, $30,000. So per individual. So being able to support organizations that are working really hard to care for those animals is another great way to support wildlife and the ecosystems that they call home.
I was thinking about this, like, do y'all have an interaction with kids and like I mean, I would think that would be important for neighbors and getting them early, right? This appreciation for the natural in nature and sort of the natural environment? Again, most of these kids are growing up in an urban environment, not really connected to nature. So getting them outdoors, and is that programs that you support as well?
Absolutely. We host events every first Saturday. We're open to the public, and that's from 9 a.m. to noon. We offer summer camps. We offer badge workshops for scouts. We offer camping experiences. We have our ambassadors that travel all around North Texas. They go to schools, libraries, all of the above. And then we also offer events that are family friendly. So, like for instance, this Saturday we have an event called Sip and Soar, and that's going to be a great date night, but also we'll have childcare there where the kids are going to be able to do raptor experiences and crafts that are conservation centric and a really great program for themselves, while mom and dad are having a great time enjoying, a glass of wine or beer and hanging out with some of our other ambassadors. And so we're trying to create experiences for both adults and children to be able to learn more about what we do and also be able to walk away having a great time.
That sounds, that's kind of my next topic in my list is really, you're not just talking about animals, right? You're bringing people together, people who have similar passions around, this particular effort. And so talk a little bit about that, the importance of building what you're talking about, these sort of sip and strolls, and how do you engage people that might not otherwise be engaged around this activity? Is that something that you focus on, I guess, my question?
Absolutely. Outreach overall, I think, is really important. And people can't help or support or make changes in their life if they don't understand what those changes and the impact those changes have on their environment, right? So being able to help streamline that experience for people and help them see what their individual actions cause, whether that's good or bad, I think is really what comes together in making sure that we're on the right track. Are we serving our purpose? And anytime we're creating an event or signing up to do some sort of outreach opportunity, we always ask ourselves, is this in line with our mission? Is it furthering our mission in the community and helping provide that education that's such a key piece to what we do to those around us?
Okay, awesome. So if businesses want to get involved, or we have volunteers that see this and they want to step up, start getting involved, what's that process look like?
We have a very robust volunteer program. We have on our website, we have a fantastic page that goes through a couple of different volunteer opportunities. So every volunteer goes through an onboarding process where it starts with orientation just to make sure, okay, this is in line with what I'm thinking. I'm on board for cutting up mice. I'm on board for doing this or that. And then once they have been onboarded, they then have the opportunity to choose which department they want to volunteer in. Our organization has about 34 different volunteer opportunities, different roles. And so we have everything from receptionists. In fact, you really need receptionists, and that's like the best gig because you're sitting in the air conditioning, you're sitting where it's
one of the only jobs that's in that inside.
Yeah, it's the best. And so everything from office roles to helping with our education programs, that's actually a huge need because during field trip season, we have field trips sometimes back to back to back. And so being able to have different volunteers be able to give relief to other volunteers is really wonderful. So everything from teachers, retired teachers, folks that are retired in general, that there's so many different opportunities that people have available to help and support our organization. We do corporate work days as well, and that's another great way to get involved. We do partner with several companies throughout the area that come in and do a work day, and then they get to meet our ambassadors and learn about how their impact really helps our organization. And so that's something else that we really love to do.
Nice. And so let's talk a little bit about what's next for you guys on the horizon the next 2 years. What's sort of your main focus over the next couple of years?
Our main focus is really looking at expanding our footprint in a couple of different ways. First off, we love being able to have our park for people to come visit. We would like to have that park open 7 days a week. Our organization is open 7 days a week for our rehab hospital, but currently the park is completely private. So we do host private events, but being able to, and of course our events, but being able to open that up even more to the public, I think would be ideal. We're open to expanding our reach throughout the community too. So whether that looks like programming or experiences for people to come visit that are not on our property, but associated with what we do. Those are also things that we're looking at exploring as well.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to host your group in a place so that they, invite people in to learn more about it, you'd come off site and be at their location to talk about kind of what your mission is and what y'all do?
Absolutely. Yes, we do about 300 programs a year like that.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through a lightning round, a couple of questions. What's your favorite bird? Or is it like picking one of your favorite children? I don't know.
That's exactly what it's like. It's so funny. People ask me this question all the time, and I'll start maybe 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 14. But there are a couple of special ones that I work with. Charlotte is our great horned owl. I had the pleasure and honor of being able to raise her from being a baby. She was an imprint that came in, and she's now 3 years old. Petunia is our black vulture. That she's pretty famous. She paints, and so a lot of people love to see her paint. And then she is fully flighted, so we actually fly her at programs and First Saturday and things like that. So she's another one that's pretty special. But the list really does go on. All of them all are very unique personalities. As far as general species that I currently have, raptors in North Texas, I would say I love vultures. Like, they're just highly intelligent. We had 2 come in this last August that were imprinted. And so we've been training them while we've been waiting for their official paperwork to move to their forever home. One moved to Oregon and one is still waiting to move to Ohio. And so being able to raise them and just see that they're just amazing animals. They're very social, very smart. And so I think out of the raptors as a whole, vultures are probably, black vultures specifically, are probably my favorite.
That's funny. So I'm in Fairview. We're sitting up on the 4th floor, and we have 2 that sort of hang out up here with us. And I love it. I mean, like I would have said before, they're like this ugly bird. I've never really been that close to one, right? Like it's an ugly bird. But now I'm sitting like literally 3 foot from it, and like he'll hit the window. It's almost like he's saying hi. He's like, "Hey, I see you." And he just hangs out, and it's 2 of them. Maybe it's a boy, maybe it's a girl. I have no idea. But I talk to them. They're like cool company up here, and I love vultures too. My wife, she just can't understand. I'm like, no, babe, look, they're so much more than I thought when you just see them on the road eating, a dead squirrel or something.
Yes, they're super smart, and really they're such an important part of our ecosystem. I would say out of all the raptor species, they are arguably the most important one to have around because they're nature's cleanup crew. They're removing all the dead stuff that could cause disease for everyone, including humans, and taking care of that. They have a lot of great adaptations that make sure that they can disinfect their feet and disinfect their wings. And that's why they don't have feathers on their head, because they're not taking bacteria out with them when they're sticking their heads into carcasses. They're just a really cool animal that's really misunderstood. And they're one of the few social raptors. That's the other neat thing. That's why you see them hanging out together all the time. Very, very intelligent animals.
That is awesome. Favorite outdoor place in North Texas? Do you have a place you like to go and hang out?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, of course, I have to say the Blackland Prairie Raptor Center.
Of course, second favorite place.
I do spend a lot of time at like Trinity River Audubon Society, or Audubon Center, I should say. We do a lot of partnership programs with them as well. That's a great place. It was built on top of a landfill. If you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend checking it out. Really cool story of turning what was literally junk into a really cool ecosystem. So that's a great spot. But it's funny because I feel like Dallas is not known for its natural beauty. But when you really start spending some time, there's some beautiful places around the area that really are unique and serve the purpose of helping people get outdoors and enjoy their space.
I agree. I think it's a really underrated piece of the Dallas economy. I think we're just, and those that know sort of know, and they can't believe you don't know. But there's really, I don't know what it is, but it is. I do think it is an underrated piece of the overall DFW. There are some beautiful places here. You just don't realize it and know it because for whatever reason, if you're not from around here, you hadn't been here, you didn't know, you couldn't hear of it. So I'm glad I'm not the only one that feels that way. That's awesome. We need to change that. Sunrise or sunset?
Oh, sunrise for sure. I wake up every day at 4 a.m. and I'm ready to go. There are nights when I'm in bed before the sun sets and I'm already restoring for the next day. So that's an easy one.
All right, that's my calendar too, and unfortunately, my wife is the exact opposite. So we
Yes,
like,
I know this too.
okay, if you could have dinner with anyone, living or dead, do you have someone that you would love to have dinner with?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Ooh, me? Like Jane Goodall. That would be really incredible.
That would be awesome. That's a
Yeah.
good answer. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, Laura, it has been great to have you on. Thank you for spending so much time with us and giving us a look at what it is you do. It's clear you're very passionate about it. You're obviously very good at what you do. You're very successful. Thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for sharing that with others in our neighbor and for those that live in Fairview. Y'all came out to our Texas Outdoor Summit. We appreciate that, your support. It really does mean a lot, and so I just want to say thank you for that and appreciate you coming on the show today. All right. Well, friends, thank you for joining us for another Spotlight moment here in Fairview. We're grateful to our neighbor, Laura Johnson, for reminding us that being neighborly isn't just about how we treat each other. It's about how we care for the wildlife, our open spaces, the natural beauty here in North Texas. And it's such a special place to call home. You don't think of it, as we just mentioned, you think of DFW, you don't really think about it, but it is really a special place to call home. So whether it's a hawk soaring overhead, an owl hidden among the trees, the prairie ecosystem fighting to survive, everyone has a role to play in protecting what makes our community unique. Remember, when you're here in Fairview, Texas, or you're dreaming from afar as a listener, you're always part of the community. So as we wrap up, we want to do a big shout out to our friends at VentureX. They're the premier co-working space here in the heart of Collin County. If you need a private office, or you want a collaborative workspace or place just to get things done out of the house, VentureX here in Fairview has you covered with a professional modern environment designed for your success. So please stop by and tell them Super Dave sent you. I'm Super Dave, reminding you that here in Fairview, Texas, you're not just a neighbor, you're family. And until next time, stay healthy, stay intentional, love your neighbor, and make it a great day.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Getting Neighborly from the heart of Fairview, Texas. This is your host, Super Dave Quinn, and I can't thank you enough for lending us your ears and hearts today. If our story stirred something in you, hit the subscribe button. More tales of innovation, spirit, and community await, showcasing why Fairview isn't just a place on the map, but a destination of dreams. Before you go, take a moment to share your love with a 5-star rating and review, because your support means the world to us and helps us spread the neighborly spirit far and wide, inviting others to join our close-knit community. Are you considering giving your business a fresh start or a grand expansion? Fairview, Texas is calling. With unbeatable resources, a supportive community, and endless opportunities, we're here to help you succeed. Dive into possibilities today at www.fairviewtexasedc.com, where your business dreams have a place to grow and flourish. From all of us here at Getting Neighborly Podcast and the Fairview Economic Development Corporation, thank you for your incredible support. Here's to more connections, more stories, and more success together. Until next time, stay inspired, stay driven, and above all, stay neighborly.